There you are. This is part 2 of Ephesians 4. We're just trying to understand a little bit about releasing ministries into the body of Christ to do the work that they've been called to do. We saw that how often they are held back, or they take on another role as a pastor to be able to be financed to be able to do the work of ministry. And that has all kinds of repercussions and all kinds of problems. So if you put any other gifted ministry in the local church as a senior pastor who is not a pastor, you create a whole lot of different problems, because they work differently, they think differently, their ministry is different. And so it's important that we have a balance of ministry, but it's coordinated or facilitated by a local pastor. And that's what we're trying to convey here in this aspect of what we did in the business area. As we progressed over time, there came challenges in the business, and some of those were in relation to this level of override that was being paid. There was a desire for those who were creating the wealth, if we could call it that, starting to desire to have part of that action as well. Would want to put themselves onto pulpits so that they could qualify themselves as a ministry to be able to draw on those funds. And so that created some challenges, if you like, in relation to the distribution of that money and so on. As time went on, that became difficult. There came a separation or a parting of the way of some who wanted to go and claim all of that money, and in other words, they lost the vision of the purpose and the call that this business had been established for. And the repercussion was that churches were affected by it, because ministries were withdrawn from the road, if you like, and so on. Now, during that time, as we progressed in all of that, we built a new home. We built a home in a place called Mornington. I need to say that because this is quite important and relevant here. My name is Trevor Davis. We lived in a place called Mornington. That's where we built this brand new, nice home and set it up. Now, just at the time of all of these challenges going on and different agents beginning to set up their own business and their own field and so on, there came another person in Mornington. Now, this person was a manager of a company. His name was Trevor Davies, not Trevor Davis. So Trevor Davies of Mornington. Sound similar? Well, there you are. Well, this particular person was under investigation by the fraud squad for misappropriating large amounts of money, etc., etc. So now the next thing that comes out that follows through this industry that I am is that Trevor Davis of Mornington is now being investigated by the fraud squad. See, misalignment, an association, a similar association by name, by location. So all of a sudden, my clientele begin to question ethics, business, etc. So now we're caught in this. I don't know whether you've ever faced that, but I tell you, it's actually not a very pleasant experience to go through, and where that leads you to. So there you are. We enjoyed all of that. So what's happening now with this time for us? Well, the business is now starting to fail. We've got a daughter that's about to get married, and all out here. We have 5 vehicles, and one of those is allocated specifically, one was given to ministry, another one was made available to ministry. Whenever they came into Australia, they could pick up a car and use it to travel, and we underwrote the cost of all of that. That was part of our expression and our releasing of ministries into the body of Christ. And so that's kind of where we are. And then I had to, because of the way in which things were going, I then had to seek legal advice and then accounting advice. The end result was that our business had to be wound up. I don't know whether you've ever heard of some of these terms, but in Australia, there's a term that's called it's a creditor's arrangement. That's the easiest way. It's a creditor's arrangement was put in place for us to be able to now, because we're insolvent, basically. So you go into this and you agree to follow the pathway to all of this, which is what we did. But what we didn't know in its fullness until we get really to the end of it is that to go into a creditor's arrangement, you actually lose all your assets. So here we are now. We have 5 cars. Think about that. We have a brand new house. Think about that. We have bank accounts here, think about that, and they were both business and personal. Once you go into that creditors arrangement, they have the rights to take all of that. So they took it all. We had the meeting with the creditors and presented our case. Creditors all came back and said, well, there's a choice here, and the choice is to go bankrupt or to make an arrangement. And one of the prominent creditors there stood up to say, well, this guy, in all of our dealings with business, he has never done anything wrong. His integrity is impeccable. His honesty is above normal, and we sure wouldn't want him to go bankrupt and find that he's got limitations on any future income. So we went for this creditors arrangement. Well, what did that mean at the end of the day? It meant that we were given a taxi fare to go home. To go home for what? To go home and to have our cars taken away, except for there was one. There was one that was left. And then we find that as we progress through all of this now, everything's going. Bank accounts are all closed. All the funds have been taken from us. Cars have been taken. We've got one car. And then one morning, and this is the process of all of this, we get a knock on the door at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's a sheriff. The sheriff over there have different levels of authority than they do in New Zealand where we are, but they have a sheriff. He comes to the door and it's dark. He introduces himself. He said, I've come to pick up the keys for your last car. And I said, well, why would you do that at this time of the day? He said, just in case you sneaked out and we didn't catch you. I mean, can you imagine all the pressure that goes beyond all of this and the different things that go in all of this? This was like a real hit out against everything that we were doing, which was to provide finances, to be able to release ministry, to be able to do the work of ministry, to build up the body of Christ and to equip them to do the work of ministry. This is incredible. So the story goes on and on. And so within 6 months, we were now having our last meal, as it were. Our daughter got married, so she left home in that sense and set up their own home, and so life went on. So I continued to do some brokering and some business to enable us to at least live and to do what we were. And as we went through all of the process of here, another one of the challenges came when we were advised by some of our senior consultants at the time who were dealing with some of the accounting work and said, well, you're in debt to the tax department. And because of that, we don't want to stick around because we don't want to get caught in that. Now, you talk about here misrepresentation, you talk about lies, you talk about all these kinds of things. So they went. They were my last two, if you like. That was the last two standing. They've gone. So what happened? So now we get to the stage that I've just mentioned to you, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, we get this letter from the tax department. And the tax department was indicating there was money available to us because in previous days there had been overpayment of tax, not underpayment. We owed them nothing, but they owed us something. You see, but people make decisions on those things. So what can I say? And I want to say this. Well, if you're in business today, integrity is critical. Honesty is critical. Make sure that you have your finances right and that they're running properly. Make sure that the integrity of the running of your business is of high standard in all your dealings. Because it was these kinds of behaviors that had caused the failing of this business in its end, which caused a withdrawal of ministry, which meant these ministries are unable to equip the saints. And so it goes on. It's not a sob story. This is just a reality. I'm just trying to help you understand there's a journey that sometimes we go through. And we wonder, is God in this? Where is God now? I mean, there was a big question then. When was God? I mean, one of our friends, when all of this finally, he rang one day and said, oh, we want to come down and see us. I said, well, okay, we're just fine. He said, how do you really feel? I said, look, we've lost everything. So we've got no debt, we've got no worry, we've got no mortgage, we are as free as a bird, we can walk out the door and we are just fine to start again. So there you are. Bit of a story leads us into the next chapter of our story. I trust this is helping you, it's edifying you. I trust it's building you up, understanding that God, yes, He can be trusted. Yes, we can rely on Him. He is always there, even when things look difficult. Hang on to God. He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. Send us an email. Love to hear from you. Click on subscribe. Can you do that? Love you to do that. Not just because you're the stories, but because of when we get to a level, we only need another 10 subscribers and we can have our own channel for our Father's house. It would be wonderful to have that. Anyway, over to you. God bless you. You have a great day, a great week. Pass it on to somebody else. Share this. Maybe you know somebody is going through a difficult time and they wonder, will they ever get through it? Let me tell you this. You will. And God will still be with you. May God bless you. Trust it's helpful.